me again. In the hat again, obviously, and a hoodie, because that's what I do. How are you all doing? Hope you're okay. And another video. I'm going to try and have a bit more structure to this one, and talk about the last few years of Covid-19, the pandemic, and mental health, and how I dealt with it, or not. Let's see what you think. So first of all, thank you if you've come back to watch some more of me waffle on. Good on you. I would have given up, like I said before. Anyway, so I want to talk about the my mental health during COVID and how I dealt with it. So to get an idea of that, we need to go way back to before COVID, to 2019, middle of 2019, and the journey that set us towards COVID, or me towards COVID. So 2019, I was working for an airline. I won't mention it, but you probably guessed who it was. It wasn't British Airways, it was long haul, and they wore red uniform. I wasn't crew. I worked at the head office. I worked in the OCC, which stands for Operations Control Centre, in the customer operations team. What we would do, it was a 24-hour operation. Obviously, being an airline, there's always a plane in the air. And what we would do is we would manage the customer experience during a disruption. Also manage the social media feeds, so for Twitter and Facebook, Wi-Fi on board planes. People could tweet if they didn't get the right meal on board the flight. They would tweet saying, "I've not got my chicken meal," and I'd be like, "Okay, that's great. Speak to the crew member, because you're 35,000 feet in the air, and I'm in Crawley." So, and like I said, it's 24-hour operation, day shift, night shifts, 12-hour shifts, 7 to 7. And sometimes it could be an easy shift, nothing would happen, and then sometimes shit hits the fan, hurricane about to hit Florida, or 2 aircraft out because they've gone technical. And then sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning, all you want to do is sleep, but you've got to deal with an emergency landing, or you've got to deal with a plane that is delayed or cancelled halfway across the world. Cut the long story short, I was out, got a call, got an email when I was with my mate, who worked the same job as me, saying that there's a meeting, and we kind of knew that we were going to be made redundant, and we were both sort of hoping for it anyway, because we had come to the end of our time at the airline. So I went to a meeting, or actually I called into a meeting, and we were all at risk of redundancy. For me, I didn't particularly care at the time. I wanted to take it, so I took it. And then, luckily for me, I found a job to start a week later. Time had come, and it was time to leave, so I left. I got a job, I started a week later, and I started working at Brooklyn Museum, down in Weybridge in Surrey, and I became the Concorde Operations Officer. So I managed the day-to-day operation for the Concorde experience at the museum. If you don't know, Brooklands is technically the home of museums. It's the home of museums. It's technically the home of Concorde, because the first ever meeting about supersonic airliner was at Brooklands. I might do a video at Brooklands, actually, instead of me going on about it, and then I can have a little coffee. I don't drink coffee, have a cup of tea, and talk to you about Brooklands there, and mental health as well. Anyway, this video I don't want it to be too long. So I started Brooklands in July 2019, and then over the next couple of months I started to struggle a little bit mentally, because I think I was missing working at the airline. Probably I was missing my friends more than anything, and the change to routine. I'd been gone from 4 on 4 off day and night shift, 12-hour days, and to a Monday to Friday pretty much. The odd weekend, the odd Saturday or Sunday if there was a special Concord event going on. So it took me a while to adjust to that, and I didn't really. And I got to October and I handed my notice in. I needed some time out to sort of reset, focus on myself. I had my redundancy money from Virgin, so I wasn't too worried about not having any income. And then it got to December and I started itching to get back into some form of work. So I applied for a job at another airline. I'll say who it is, it's British Airways, as ground operations. And then within a couple of weeks, I was invited to an assessment centre, which I went to. And then next 2 days passed, I think it was, I was offered the position, subject to security checks and medical. And then over the next few weeks, that all got sorted, security all tickety-boo, all my references were fine. The only hold-up was my medical. I passed physically, that was not a problem. Part of my hearing, I'm a little bit deaf in one of my ears, and I'm actually eligible for a hearing aid, but I don't have one. But they said that's fine. And then, because I was honest on my medical forms about me having a history of mental health, that held everything up because they wanted letters and stuff from the doctor basically saying I wasn't mental. Little do they know. So I held everything up. So I eventually started VA in March 2020. And that was just when COVID was hitting Europe. And then in that first week, it came to the UK. So the airlines, not just BA, but all of them started scaling back operations, grounding flights. And then it was also very worrying because we were originally in one terminal, then we had to say we were going to move to the next terminal during our training. And then we were told we'd be fine, we'd be safe, they're not going to cut our jobs. And then we get a phone call on our first days off after training saying they're terminating the new hires contracts, sort of last in, first out sort of thing. And as shitty as that was, I kind of got it because they needed to cut back with no flights basically. There's no need for us to be employed, you know. So, but, you know, it fucked me up a little bit because that's when I start overthinking, go into panic mode, haven't got any money coming in. I just burned through my redundancy money a lot quicker than I thought I was going to, just because it took longer for me to start a job at BA. And yeah, it was a scary time, and obviously I know I wasn't the only one affected. Obviously my colleagues that were also terminated from the same training group, and obviously hundreds of thousands of people around the country started to wake up to COVID, having a big impact to them. People losing jobs, companies going out of business, and it was a very scary time. And you know, you've still got, at the time I was like, fuck me, I've still got bills to pay, got rent to pay. It's a very scary time. And even when the government came out with the furlough scheme, I was like, okay, that's great, but I don't have a job, so just mate. But then people like mortgage companies were like, we can give holidays to payment holidays and loans and stuff like that. So I took advantage of that. So that was kind of okay, but you know, mentally it does sort of mess you up a little bit, and you sort of find you start asking yourself what's next, you know. And sometimes, most of the time, I think you can think, oh, actually, if I do this, this will happen and everything will be okay. But during that time, you're thinking, well, I can't actually do anything because I'm applying for jobs, but so is every other person in the same situation as myself. So you're having to compete against, you know, thousands of people now. And I was applying for everything and anything. And I eventually got an interview at Tesco's down the road where I lived, and became a .com assistant, or what they call shopper. People the staff go around the shop picking up your items that you've ordered online. So the big trolley, scanning them, and that was me. Did that for a year, and it was only when it starts. And then again, I think my mental health wasn't brilliant because I was dealing with losing the job at British Airways. I was still trying to get over the redundancy from Virgin. I said the airline now. Too late. And yeah, and then my partner was put onto furlough as well, so that was a big stress because less money coming in, even less money coming in, so let's just say. And then, yeah, your body just can't. I just couldn't get used to the routine of getting up super early and then coming home at 10 in the morning and then doing it all again the next day, where my body had been used to doing 12-hour days and nights and stuff like that. So it really sort of messed me up a little bit. And that's when Bojo said about your one exercise a day, to full advantage of that, to get out of the house, back then, and get the exercise, the walk, just some fresh air, and clear the cobwebs away, because difficult times. So yeah, and then before I move on to the next part of my COVID journey, I'm going to stop and have a cup of tea, make another cup of tea, because I literally got a sip left in that one. So I'm going to make another one. I'll be back in a moment. Right, new cup of tea. So where was I? So yeah, I'm obviously very grateful to get the opportunity to earn some money again from Tesco's. And also, I had some kind of good news during that time. British Airways reached out to us, to those who had their contract ended same time as me, and put us on a community retention scheme, which meant we were in a holding pool for when hopefully the pandemic had gone. But there was no guarantee of a job at the end of it, so they put everybody into a holding pool during the community retention scheme, and they were paying us furlough. It wasn't government furlough, it was money they had from people who took voluntary redundancy, and they were able to redistribute the funds from that to give us a percentage of our wages, which when you pair that with what I was getting for Tesco's, it wasn't actually that bad that I was getting every month. So I was very grateful for that, and I appreciate how lucky I was to have that as well, because not everybody did. That was cool, and I was kept in that holding pool until September 2021. I could have another job in that time, as long as I declared that, which I did. And when it came to September last year, they were like, Rob, as the airlines get back up and running now, there's a position here if you want it. If you don't want it, just let us know, and we'll end it there. And I did think about it really hard, but I thought with the uncertainty of the future for airlines, it's not worth it. So again, I'm very appreciative of the offer, and again, lucky that I was made that offer. So if we go back to May 2021, that's when I started my new job, where I am now. If you watch the last video, you'll see some of the pictures of where I work. Very lucky that I work in that environment. But obviously not perfect, because obviously I was signed off back in September with mental health, with officially low mood and anxiety. And yeah, it all, you can connect everything up. You can go way back to 2019, to when I was made redundant from Virgin, and everything that happened in between. Obviously, COVID was a massive impact, and yeah, so this, I can link it all back to there on this bout, I should say, because it goes, like I said before, it goes way back to 2009 is probably when I started noticing the difference in my mental health, and maybe that's another video. I probably should have done a video first, actually, like a two-parter. It's like a prequel. I don't know what I'm doing. And during that time, I didn't get COVID during the sort of peak of the pandemic. I didn't get COVID until March this year, and I'd just been signed off for a change. So then I got COVID and I was stuck at home, and I am so grateful for the vaccines and the boosters and everything, because I wasn't very well at all. I could hardly breathe. I wasn't put into hospital onto a ventilator, but I did think, fuck, I might have to, but I put onto an inhaler and a short course of steroids, just to help me breathe. And it made me think, if I didn't have the jabs and stuff, I could have done that, because I knew people who had gone to hospital and onto ventilators, and it's fucking awful. And we were told we just have to live with COVID now, which is fair enough. We do, but it's still there, which is shit. It makes you think, what's next? What's the next virus or disease to hit us? And that's when the old brain starts overthinking things. And people who know me, and I've said on here before, I am a terrible overthinker. And I will always be one. That will never change. I haven't really achieved anything with this video, but it's just a little glimpse into the last few years. Have a cup of tea. This video is a bit of a random one. I thought I'd have some structure to it, but I really don't. And I've not really spoken much about anything apart from waffling. Anyway, thank you for sticking with me. If you've turned off, which I would have done, then you wouldn't see me say this. So, fuck you. People, actually, before I go, I met up with a friend yesterday. So today's Sunday, yesterday was Saturday, obviously. And they said that watching my videos really helped them, actually. They didn't realise what I'd gone through or going through, and they had been going through a similar situation with their mental health, and they said it was just nice to know they're not alone, and that's my goal with these, is to say that you're not alone. There are people out there who are going through same or similar situations, and you're not alone. Please remember that. It's very easy to think that you are on your own, especially if it's the first time you've sort of gone through anything like this. You're not on your own. Feel free to message me, or put a comment below, or message me through my Instagram, which I'll link in the description below. I am always here for you if you need just a vent. I may not have the answers for you, and I'm not an expert, obviously, but if I've helped, cool. Anyway, thank you for watching. You are all awesome, and please remember to keep on talking, and I'll catch you later. What the fuck?